Hi everybody, it is Miss Rachel and welcome to Cap at Home. Today we are going to make this version of a star luminary, but I wanted to show you what inspired this project, which is right behind me. Right there. So let me switch this around so you can see up close. This is a luminary. It hangs. You can put lights in it. And this particular version has glitter and cutouts and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to show you how to make a very simplified version for yourself. So let us hop right over here to this table. And I have a new setup and I can't see my screen to see if we're good, so it looks like we're okay and you can see my screen or my work area. Alrighty, so in order to complete this craft, you're gonna need a few things. You will need square sheets of paper. If you want to make a whole star with a front and a back, you'll need two. If you're just going to make a one-sided star, then you'll just need one square sheet of paper. You'll also need scissors, a pencil, string, glue dots, whatever you have. Glue works best. Tape won't work too hot for this. If you use tape, you'll see it on the outside of your star, so that is a design decision up to you. And you'll need a ruler. Some optional things that you can use include a hole puncher to punch a hole to hang your star to add the string, but you could also just kind of stab a hole with your pencil. It's not, like you can't accomplish getting that hole in there without the thing. So you could also use the X-acto knife, which I will show you a little bit later on. If you are using a blade like this, make sure you have some supervision and somebody has some first aid just in case. And you should also have something to protect your work area from getting scratched up, like a cutting mat. So let's just jump right into making the star. So if you're starting off with paper that is 8.5 by 11, just a regular sheet of copy paper, then you will need to cut it down to a square shape. So because I know this is 8.5 inches long over here, I'm going to cut this 11-inch side down to 8.5 inches. So one way you can do that is by taking this point and aligning this edge of the paper with the top over here and then just folding it down, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use my ruler and X-acto knife because I don't want that extra crease in there. So if you have a ruler, you can just measure it out so that your paper is square and cut it down. Alrighty, so I'm going to put that scrap to the side because I may need it later on. And I'm going to put my X-acto blade away because I don't want to scratch myself or cut myself. So I like the way this star is made with the cardstock, but it's pretty difficult to fold the cardstock the way you need to get it into this shape. So I'm going to show you with my scrap piece of paper, and then I'm going to show you some transfer techniques to transfer what we create with this scrap piece of paper onto our cardstock. So all that being said, let's start folding. Take your piece of paper and fold it in half. And it doesn't matter which way you do it because it's square, so they should both be exactly the same. And now I'm going to start with this bottom left corner and bring it up to the top. And I'm going to align this left edge with this top edge, which is my open edge. The bottom edge is my folded edge. So if you're following along with the instructions in the caption, then that is what I'm talking about, aligning this left edge with the top. Now I'm going to open it up and I have a diagonal fold. Now I'm going to take the top left corner and bring it down over here to this point and do the same thing. I'm going to align this edge with the bottom folded edge. It's kind of the same thing, but opposite, if that makes sense. Bam. Now open it up and you have a X shape created by folds. That's what you want. So back at my rectangle form, I'm going to work on the other side of the paper. I'm going to take my bottom right corner and bring it to the middle of this folded X. So take that and just put it right there, right in the middle. And you get this strange diagonal line, but trust me, it's going to work. So now I'm going to take this same corner and bring it back out toward this side, and I'm going to align this bottom folded edge with my new folded edge. Just like that. Bam. Alrighty, so you have something that looks really strange, but you're doing it right if it looks like this. Now I'm going to take this bottom folded edge and align it with this middle folded edge by just bringing all of that up this way. So again, and it's not along this fold here, it's slightly skewed, but that is what you want. So you get this kind of arrow shape. I'm going to show you that one more time. So you see I've created an extra fold in there, and it doesn't look pretty, but that is how to do this. Like that. Now I am going to fold this in half like this and take this edge and bring them back here together like that. Okay, so doing that one more time just to show you that fold. Bam. So if we go back to the last step where we had our little arrowhead, now I'm folding it back and it's more of a cone shape, kind of like an ice cream cone. And you want to be on the side that has the short flap. And you're going to grab your scissors and cut through all of the layers along this little edge here. And you want it to be kind of straightish, like that. And all of this is trash for me, so I'm going to put it in the trash can right now so I don't have to worry about finding it and cleaning it up later. So now that you have this triangle, you want to open it up about halfway. And you will have this three-sided shape here with a bunch of folds. And then if we open it up all the way, you will have what is called a pentagon. A five-sided polygon. Perfect. So this is where I'm going to pause because this shape will become this with a bunch of little cuts in it. And then that will become this. It will become your star. But right now we have the folds that we need. And one thing is doing all those folds kind of takes up a little bit of time. And it's really difficult to fold that in the cardstock. And when you do it with your final paper, you get this weird crease on one of the star spokes. And I don't like that. So we're going to go back to our piece that we just unfolded and use this as a guide. Since you'll have to do 2 cardstock pieces to create a front and back for your star, I'm going to encourage you to grab one piece of your square cardstock. I already cut this down to 8.5 by 8.5. And I'm going to fold this in half like we did for the first step with our regular paper. But now I am going to line up my folded edge with this folded edge and do just a little bit of tracing. I'm holding it down with one hand And I'm going to use my pencil to make a mark right here. And that is along this fold that comes right here on the paper. And then I'm going to make a mark at the next fold, and a mark at the next fold, and then a mark at this fold. So this is just my hack. It is not in the caption, so exclusive. And now I'm going to just lightly trace around the edge of my cutout white piece of paper. And it's okay if it's a little wonky. And the last thing I want to do is come over here to where all of the folds meet in the middle and make a tiny little mark on the inside of my paper. Oop. So I didn't get all of this line traced here, so just set it back down and trace it. There. So these marks here all correspond with the folds in my paper. You can kind of see that. And I just traced it out. And then I would cut this out to kind of get it to this step as far as a cardstock piece. So let me go ahead and do that. And then I can show you how to fold it. So having that pentagon really helps. Oops. And you want to make sure your marks go through the edge line, not just right up to the edge like that, but through it, so that when you cut, you're not cutting them off. And then you have marks that are right at the corners, so your corners will be represented. And make sure you have that middle mark too. And it's okay if these lines that you're cutting are not perfectly straight. Just do your best. That's all we can ask, right? Cool. So I'm done with these. I'm not going to use this. There we go. So now I'm going to use my ruler to help me create folds. So I'm going to use this mark in the middle and line it up with this mark here, just by pushing my ruler to that edge mark and then over to the middle mark. And I want it to come right to this point here. So if it doesn't do that, you're just going to kind of nudge it into place so that it does. And then you're going to fold your paper over the edge of your ruler. And you're going to keep going around your pentagon. I'm going to align this corner mark right here that I drew with the middle mark, and I want my ruler to end up in between these 2 points. So I'm just going to trust that it kind of does. And another way to check to see that this is the middle is to kind of pinch these corners together here, and it is. Like my fold is falling right there because, you know, they're not off or wonky like that. They match up, so that works well. And then I'm going to do it again with this last mark. Or no, I think I have 2 more. Do this mark here, align the mark with the middle, and make sure my ruler is ending up at that point. Folding the paper over. So it's still a lot of folding, but you don't get that extra weird fold, and it's a little easier to do this fold or this kind of folding instead of having the bulk of all that paper to fold the initial way I showed you with the scrap sheet of paper. So now we have something that is really, really similar to this. And you can go ahead and trace that, trace your thing out again on another piece so that you can have a bunch of pieces that are about at this point. So this is what you want. So now I am going to go back to what we were doing in the comments. So if you're following along, let me check. We're on step step 12. Oh no, we did step 12. Then we lightly drew our marks. So now at step 12, we're lightly drawing marks. That's where we are, step 12. So you want to make sure that you are working on the side of the paper that you want to go inside of your star. So the side that's going inside will be face up. So it's easier to see on a paper that has two sides if you're working on it. If it is the same on both sides, it doesn't matter. But this is the side that I want to go inside my paper, and that's where I'm going to draw my marks. So I am drawing marks on the folded lines that fall in the middle of the straight edge. And I'm just drawing a mark so that I know where to cut, which is what these cuts are. And in my example, I went way too far in. So I'm going to make sure that I don't do, I think I did like 2 inches on this one. I'm only going to do a 1/2 inch on here. Or just really close to the edge. Because the farther you go in, the more that you can fold it to make your star really pointy, and then if you stay out closer to the edge, your star will be fatter. So I'll show you what I mean shortly. So I'm just going to make a little mark right here, and if you have a ruler and you want to be super particular about it, you could measure along the fold to see exactly where you drew your mark, which is about a 1/2 inch, and draw the rest of your marks at exactly a 1/2 inch. But I've done this a couple times, and I know that being super particular is not it's not necessary. This still works even if you are kind of eyeballing it. So I'm going to draw my marks. And they're probably really hard to see. So I should switch over to my cardstock paper, which I will do. So I have these little marks right here, and they're along the folded line that goes through the middle of the straight edge here. They're not on the folded line that comes to a point. So I'll do that one more time. I have my straight edge here, and I got marks on this side of the paper, so I'm going to continue drawing on this side of the paper so that this will be inside and nobody will see my pencil marks. And I'm just going to draw a little line about 1/2 inch from the straight edge here. And I am eyeballing it. So you can eyeball it, or you can be super precise with the ruler. It is up to you. Okay, there we go. And it may be hard for you to see my folds, but as you're working, you will definitely see where your paper is folded, because you'll be working in real life and not looking at it through a camera. So it will be obvious to you where the marks should go. So now we have our marks, and those marks tell us where to stop cutting. So let's grab our scissors and carefully cut along the fold up to the mark that we just drew. And you're going to do that all the way around your it's not a star yet, your pentagon. There we go. And I like to be careful just because I'm using scissors, but it doesn't matter if these lines are like perfectly straight. They just need to be cut. Alrighty. So this is the point where it makes a difference as to what kind of star you want. This version of the star is my fatter star. Like, the spokes aren't as pointy as this one is. They are a little bit wider. So that's what I meant with where you make your marks. If you want your star to be really pointy, then you're going to make your marks further in and then fold it the way that I'm about to show you. But if you want a fat star, then you'll make your mark further out and fold it again how I'm about to show you. So now I'm making another fat star, and I'm just going to fold this. I want to come down to my mark here, but I also want my folded edge to come out to this point. So it does take a little bit of working the paper, especially with the cardstock. It's a lot easier with thinner paper, but we're going for a great star, not necessarily the easiest one. And if you really want to get that full crease down in there, use the back of your scissors. So now I have my starting to make my fat star. If I was going to make this in a way where my spoke would be, where I wanted my star spokes to be more narrow and more pointy, then when I got to this point, I'm going to work on the back, I would take this flap, and I didn't draw marks here, but these marks are all the way toward the middle. So if I want it to be more pointy, then I would fold this, and this line is the line that I'm creating that will become this. So you will need to eyeball it and say, oh, I think, you know, that's good, or I want it more pointy. However, but the closer that you fold this toward the middle, the more pointy your star is going to be. So that is something to keep in mind. So I got that side. And then I would go to the next one. I wouldn't go to the other side of the point. I would go to the other flap and match up my folded points down here, because that's what needs to match so that it all aligns at the inside points. The outer points are not, you don't need to match them up so much, but the inside points is what makes it look really neat. So just in case like you're not really getting them to be as neat as you want, that's one thing you should pay attention to, because that might be the issue. Then you can use your scissors to crease that down. So that's how to make a really pointy star. Open that back up and then do the other side and keep going around and around and around until you are completely finished. And you'll see, and then you'll probably even need to trim some of that down, but see how that point is way skinnier than this one that I'm about to make here? I'm gonna show you the difference. And the cardstock, like I said, is harder to fold, which is why we didn't want to do all of that folding in the beginning. So we made like our little template. But you could do it all the way from the beginning with the cardstock. It's up to you, but believe me, I tried it out for you guys, and I know that it is kind of a pain. So there we go. And now once I fold this over, you'll see that my star is starting to form like really fat spokes instead of the really skinny ones like this one. So make your decisions, it's up to you. I think it will look great either way. And you're just going to keep spinning this around and folding it. Folding it, folding it, folding it. And once you have all of these things folded down, you will decide if you want to have cutouts in your heart. And not in your heart, in your star. This is a star, not a heart, Miss Rachel. Okay. If you want cutouts like the really fancy one that I showed you, or even more simple ones like this here, then you should be thinking about that now. If you want really fancy cutouts, then you're going to have some drawing to do after this step. And when you draw, you're going to draw on the inside. So the part with all the marks, you'll just keep drawing on the inside. And then you'll cut it out with an X-acto. I'm not going to demonstrate the whole thing because it is time consuming to do that. But it will be worth it in the end. But I don't have 3 or 4 hours to cut out everything in this star the way I would do it. But I will show you just a little snippet how to. So remember, when you're creasing this stuff down, make sure you are using the back of your ruler. Save your fingernails. I mean, sorry, the back of your scissors, not ruler. The ruler would work too, but you know what? In fact, let's try it out. Pretty sure, especially with this metal ruler, that works too. It's kind of harder to move than the scissors because mine is metal. Ooh. Actually, that almost works better than the scissors. That fold is really in there. Okay, so now we have our star. And you'll see it's still a little wonky, but I have my cute fat star. Perfect. And now we want to make sure that all of our points right out here have folds that are coming up toward us. And that all of these edges here have valleys that go down. So these are called mountain folds because they come up like a mountain. And these are called valley folds because they go low like a valley. So we're just going to go around and make sure that each fold is going the right way. And if it's not, you can just fold it back the opposite way. So right now we're doing okay because I have the mountain folds, but this was a mountain fold, but I want it to be a valley. So I'm just going to push it inward and crease it down. And you can use your, you can place this down on the table and use your scissors or ruler or however you want to really crease that in. But I think my fingers are doing enough. So as you can see, this project is kind of intense. It's not difficult, but it does take a while to do. So if you decide to do this, make sure you have more than 30 minutes. Sit down, grab a friend or a sibling or auntie, cousin, brother, uncle, somebody, and do it. So bam, you have that one. And if you work with someone while you're doing it, you can do one side and then they can do the other side. And then you guys can bring it all together. So you will need to have 2 stars that are cut kind of the same. So you'll need to, once you cut this out, you'll need to make sure that the mark that you do on the second one that you fold up is about the same so that they can fit together and go back to back. I'm going to show you how to wrap this up because we are running out of time. And then I'll show you about the cutouts. So we have our 2 sides. Of course, I would have loved this to be yellow, but as you are gluing this together, you're just going to put glue on one of the flaps and then stick it down. And when you're sticking it together, you're probably going to have to flatten it out and really press down. But once you get it all together, you'll just kind of squeeze it back into shape. Alrighty, there we go. So before you glue everything together, you'll want to decide if you want to add a hole in there to hang it or just how you're going to display it. You don't have to put that hole in there to hang it. You could just kind of have this as something that stands up. That would be cool. But if you want to hang it, then just go to whichever spoke you want and punch your hole. I unfold the flap and then put my hole puncher in there and punch. So it could be in one of the valley areas, or it could even be right on one of the tips. And you can punch a hole there. That's not going to hurt your star at all. It will work. You can, and also before you glue it together, you'll punch the hole and you'll want to make sure you put your string in too. So you grab your string and cut it to whatever length you want it. And then lace that through. And make sure your string is on the outside before you start gluing your pieces together like that. So my string's on the outside, and then I'll glue on the flap and press it together. And then that will become this. So the gluing part does take a little bit of doing. So like I said, be patient with yourself and give yourself a little time. And if you really want to jazz this up and do cutouts like the one I have here, then before you glue and before you punch your hole, you will decide which areas you want to have designs and draw them on the inside of the star, the side with all of your marks. And you'll want to make sure that your shapes are closed shapes. So a circle would be a closed shape, a square would be a closed shape, but if you're just drawing a line, that is not a closed shape. If you want something similar like a line like that, then you'll need to do it again and make it kind of fat. And the way you can test out to see if you have a closed shape is if you can color it in and there's no little openings along the side, then it is a closed shape. So once you draw that out, then you will grab your X-acto knife and make sure you're on your cutting mat and carefully follow your lines. And it may be helpful to, I like to stand up while I'm cutting because it gives me leverage. I can press down as much as I need to get through my paper. And I feel like I have more control. So that is a little Miss Rachel tip for you with cutting with an X-acto knife. And you want to make sure your X-acto or your craft knife is sharp, or else it will just tear up your paper. So if you are doing this with me, or you're working on it and you started it with me and you're going to finish it a little bit later, make sure you post a picture in the comments because we would love to see what you're working on. And if you run into any issues, you can post a picture of maybe you're like, I'm on this step and I just don't get it because your instructions are crazy, Miss Rachel. Help me. And I will comment back. I will help you. That is what I'm here for. So that is how to use your X-acto to cut out a design. And once you have that design cut, you'll flip it over and you'll see it on the other side. So I think that, you know, doing your own designs would definitely be worth it. It would look great. And if you decide to, like I said, leave a picture in the comments because we would love to see everything you're working on. You can even use crayons, markers, or colored pencils to draw on the outside if you decide not to do the cutouts. You can decorate this however you want. It is an art project, and of course, it's up to you. So thank you so much for joining me at Cap at Home today. Remember that we are here Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. and we go live on Facebook, but you can always watch our rebroadcast on Facebook, Instagram, or even check out our library of videos on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Miss Rachel. We made star luminaries today. Remember to contact us. Let us know if you need help and let us know what you're doing at home. Thank you and have a great weekend. Bye.